10th state with zero income tax. The Georgia state legislature is taking a serious look at the matter. Senators there recently heard from current and former officials from other states that do not have an income tax or are in the process of eliminating one. The Peach State's General Assembly voted to reduce the income tax rate from 6% to 5.75% in 2022, gradually lowering it to 5.19% this year. Ken Lorman reporting.
OpenAI has announced new parental controls for ChatGPT to make it safer for teens. The move comes after concerns about AI chatbot safety for young users, including tragic cases where teenagers took their lives after using ChatGPT. Breaking news at townhall.com. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on a school district superintendent immigration officials say is in the U.S. illegally.
The school superintendent in Des Moines, Iowa, has been placed on paid leave after federal immigration agents arrested him Friday because they say he's in the U.S. illegally. Superintendent Ian Roberts was placed on leave during a 3-minute-long special meeting on Saturday. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says Roberts also doesn't have the authorization to work and that a final removal order was issued in 2024. I'm Donna Warder.
As mental health chatbots driven by artificial intelligence proliferate, a small number of states trying to regulate them. Laws in Illinois, Nevada, and Utah among the first in the nation to put limits on or ban therapy chatbots. But app creators, policymakers, and mental health advocates say that's just a start, and federal regulation would be ideal. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
When it's important to you,
what St. Louis is talking about,
it's on News Talk STL.
The CDC is an agency that is very troubled. RFK Jr. shaking up the Centers for Disease Control.
I hope President Trump can do in Chicago what he's done in Washington.
You are neither wanted here nor needed here.
News, analysis, opinion.
The people in this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny.
Tyranny is when they shoot you and the person walks out of jail.
101.9 and 94.1.
My talk station.
News Talk STL. This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
I'm very angry.
I've heard a lot of people talking about gun control. You have to wave a magic wand and get rid of the establishment.
This maniac is going to inspire the next maniac.
News, analysis, opinion.
But my focus is kind of the mental health crisis. Swamps not going to drain itself.
I'm just sick of the protesting in general, and that's why it's so very important to be prepared.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Well, if you liked it yesterday, you'll like it today. We hit 88 for the high yesterday. 1 degree higher is the forecast, 89 today under sunny skies. Not too humid. We're keeping the dew points in the mid-50s. That's moderate humidity. We do have mild evenings and mornings to look forward to, and we'll drop down to about the 60s in the metro area and upper 50s in outlying areas. And tomorrow's high, once again, about 89 degrees, and then a little bit of an increase in clouds in the afternoon. That's about it. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is...
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by
Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Agree.
I think conservatives have it wrong.
Or disagree.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The conversation happens here.
I agree with you on Trump. I'm shaking my head. I'm one of your liberal Democratic listeners, and I don't get why any of this even matters.
Because your voice matters.
Everybody told him he couldn't do it, and then he did do it. That's what you got to do. You got to play hardball.
So I want to hear what people think and be able to talk about it.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
finest work song, your finest hour, your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon, the beginning of a brand new week here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Ashlyn, and we have got a lot to talk about to fill you in on the beginning of your week. We have the latest surrounding this big meeting tomorrow in Virginia between basically every major general and admiral and military leader in the country. They're all coming to one event in Virginia tomorrow. This is an event that we reported on yesterday. The president has now announced that he will be attending that as well. So we'll get you the latest on that. We'll get you the latest on the tragedy at the Michigan church shooting over the weekend. We'll get you the latest on where we're at with the clock ticking on a potential government shutdown in just a couple of days. And to help us with all of that is going to be our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine. He'll be along with us at 3 o'clock. We'll get a market check, an economy check at the beginning of the week, as we always do, in about 40 minutes from now, about 35 minutes from now, when we talk to Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments, and Virginia Kruder from the Daily Wire is going to join us in just a few minutes as well. But right now, I know Jamie carried a little bit of this. The President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu from Israel are at the White House unveiling their new peace plan for Gaza. And the president just wrapped up some of his comments, and Benjamin Netanyahu is now speaking. I just want to dip in here to see. Obviously, we'll recap when this is all over with. We'll put together all the notes and recap everything that was said at this press conference. But let's go live to the White House now, and Benjamin Netanyahu standing next to Donald Trump, unveiling their peace plan for the Middle East.
And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. While you focus at home on making America great again, your leadership abroad is changing the world for the better, ending wars and advancing peace. I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East. And I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism. Mr. President, when our two countries stand shoulder to shoulder, we achieve the impossible. Just a few months ago, in Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, we struck a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Your bold decision to send those B-2s made the region safer and the world safer. Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace. Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Pass it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately. Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours. The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want. Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done. We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorists, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. In your 2020 peace plan, which you mentioned just now, you made clear what that transformation requires. It's not lip service. It's not checking a box. It's a fundamental, genuine, and enduring transformation. And that means ending pay to slay, changing the poisonous textbooks that teach hatred to Jews, to Palestinian children, stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots. But rather than wait for this miraculous transformation, your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region. Under your leadership, we can re-energize, I've got to contribute my own, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords. That's what it's called in the original Hebrew, Abraham. Abraham is fine, Abraham, however you want to call it. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords that we forged 5 years ago. We can expand them to many more Arab and Muslim nations that choose moderation over extremism. I think there's an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy. It's tough going, but I think if we succeed, you're absolutely right. We're going to open possibilities that nobody even dreamed of. But I think we dream of them. As you've told me, Mr. President, and you've told the world many, many times, you said, remember October 7th. Remember October 7th. And we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price.
That is Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, speaking at the White House, standing alongside President Donald Trump as they unveil their peace plan for Gaza. You heard Netanyahu touch on some of the points of that plan. We are going to continue to monitor this press conference and bring you all the details coming from it, and we will continue to get reaction from this press conference as we go through the afternoon. Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments joins us in about 20 minutes, and Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire joins the conversation next on Colombo Company.
He'll get the girl 'cause he looks so fine. He's gonna win.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu beef French dip. So good. It's the au jus that makes it. And the Wagyu beef is pretty good too. I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill. Looking for treasures from the past? Discover Mimi's Antiques Attic, your locally owned and family-operated treasure hunt destination. Explore 16,000 square feet of antiques, crafts, collectibles, and designer items across 225 unique rental spaces. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sundays, 10 to 6, at 1000 Warrenton Shops in Warrenton. Mimi's Antiques Attic, where every visit uncovers new treasures.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and it often hides in plain sight. Be alert. People who seem fearful, isolated, or who don't have their ID or money may need your help. To share a tip, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. Together, we can protect victims and stop trafficking in Missouri.
Paid for by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
It's a pretty simple concept.
It is clear to me.
Let me make this clear.
Big events.
Your news and your opinions.
We're going to get out there and be heard.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Our voices are never heard in the media. We, the people, will always find a way.
And it's about time that we start putting up or shutting up.
Yeah, and you should come. You should listen to many voices.
1019 and 94.1.
Their phone lines have surely been burning up.
News Talk STL.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
A new week, more Larry Connors USA, where you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by
Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. We are going to talk to our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary, of the 3 o'clock hour. Big announcement today from a major airline that says that they are going to be cutting thousands of jobs and replacing many of them with AI. I don't know what you call it. Just replacing it with AI. AI robots, AI people, AI systems, whatever it may be. So looking forward to that conversation with Mike McCleary. Also, Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments going to join us in about 15 minutes. Virginia Kruger from the Daily Wire will be with us hopefully here in just a moment. We are trying to connect with Virginia now. And we just heard from Benjamin Netanyahu. And I know Jamie was... Before we started this show at 2 o'clock, Jamie Allman was keeping an eye on this press conference at the White House and brought you some of the comments from Donald Trump. And that has now wrapped up. The press conference at the White House has wrapped up, and it includes Donald Trump releasing his new 20-point plan to end the Gaza war. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, very much in support of this plan. And we will kind of go through some of the details as we go through the rest of the afternoon and get everybody's thoughts on the possibility of success and bringing peace to that region. I think we have Virginia on the line with us now. Virginia Kruger from the Daily Wire. Are you there, my friend? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we will kind of go through some.
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Sure. Live radio.
There we go.
Problems.
There we go.
There you go.
I got it.
All right. I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of this press conference just wrapped up, but a very ambitious, again, 20-point plan for peace in the Middle East, just released by Donald Trump and co-signed by Benjamin Netanyahu. It would remove Hamas and the Palestinian Authority from Gaza and set up a new international body to peacefully govern and run that area. Again, it would release all hostages on both sides, whether alive or dead, within 72 hours of this being signed. If Hamas does not go along with this plan, Benjamin Netanyahu just said that Israel will, quote, finish the war on their own terms, saying that there's an easy way and a hard way, and we prefer the easy way, but we're prepared for the hard way. Again, a lot of details that we're still sort of unpacking and uncovering from this press conference that just wrapped up. But it's by far the most we've heard, most details we've heard, and the most, details revealed by both Trump and Netanyahu, I think, in a long time, if maybe not throughout the entire process of this war. I'm not sure that Hamas is going to, go along happily with this plan. So that, remains to be seen on what will happen going forward. But do you have any do you have any optimism that this could be an actual step, a significant step towards resolution in the Middle East?
Well, I think, obviously, if you look at it logically, but logic is kind of a Western thing. If you look at it logically, you're like, okay, if you have any concept of self-preservation,
right? Yeah.
Because you have to understand what finish this war on Israel's terms looks like.
Ooh.
And I think that we make the mistake too often of assuming that people in leadership in groups like Hamas think like we do, and they do not. So
I think that's a great point. That's a great point.
Israel is by philosophy is a Western country. By location, it's not, but by philosophy is a Western country. Mm-hmm. So when Netanyahu lays this out, he's thinking the way we do. The guys leading Hamas probably are not, because they may look at this and think, okay, well, we've already We've done what we can. And if Israel wipes us off the map, someone else will rise in our place. And they will do what we couldn't. They might see that they have more power as martyrs to a cause.
Yes.
And I guarantee you the American media will help them do it. You may see Hamas double down, even though it looks like a fool's errand, because we see it and we say, okay, obviously the logical thing is to cut bait at this point, right?
Yep.
You got nothing left, guys. Yep. You're not going to get out of this one alive. And there may be a few people within the organization who don't want to die.
Yeah.
But the reality is their entire reason for being is to, now, I will say this, Hamas has been pretty consistent in using other people as human shields instead of themselves. And so where a lot of times you'll see Islamist culture, you'll see suicide bombers. Hamas is like, they're like, well, you know, somebody should die for the cause, but it's not going to be me. So you might see a little bit of self-preservation there. I mean, this is why you have them building arsenals under schools, and because, like, you know, I can hold up the children as victims, and then I don't have to be a suicide bomb. I can use somebody else as a proxy, and then everybody will, you know, feel sympathy for us because the children are dying, and we can advertise this. So Hamas seems to be more strategic in that way. If that's, it's a horrible word to use, but that,
you know, but
they're doing.
You're exactly right. And that's part. So part of this plan reads, Hamas terrorists who are peaceful and give up their weapons will be granted, quote, amnesty. Quote, once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. And like you said, to you and me, that sounds like an incredible opportunity that they have fought this war. They've created, you know, they've committed atrocities, and they have an opportunity to just leave and be granted safe passage and walk away from their crimes. However, if you believe that you won't be greeted in the afterlife, or you won't be, you know, you're dooming your own eternal existence if you give up, then, you know, it doesn't, and then all of a sudden you understand that the logic that you talked about earlier doesn't really add up. So I'm not sure that I agree with you. You can't look at it from the standpoint that we are used to looking at things, because if you were, then you would look at this and say, wow, amnesty, safe passage to leave, no repercussions for terrorist members who say that they, you know, would give up their weapons and leave. But it's not all, that is not necessarily the way that will be looked at or interpreted by many people in Hamas. And just to go back to the finish the war part about Israel, after that statement was made by Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump said that Israel has his full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. So this could get very, I don't think it'll last very long, but it could get, you know, it could get very intense for a short period of time if Hamas does not accept this.
That's true. And I think, again, with the point on the media, I think it's going to get very ugly, because I think that Netanyahu, at least, but Israel in general, understands the concept of total war and what you have to do in order to ensure that an enemy cannot reload.
Yeah.
And this is something that the American military has always understood, but we have not been able to execute really since the end of World War II. We haven't really seen it in the way that it, because if you look at the way World War II was fought, There was not a lot of media on the ground. There was not a lot of immediate reporting. Most of what the American people saw of the war either came in the form of redacted letters from soldiers abroad, or the things that they brought home, or perhaps the film reels, the news reels at the beginning of movies. And a lot of that was propaganda, not necessarily, and I use the word propaganda, not necessarily bad. Not all propaganda is bad.
Right. But it was propaganda.
But it definitely has a message.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying, hey, your American guys are the good guys, and this is what they're doing right now, you know? And I think most people understood that in a war against, fascists and Nazis, that the American people were the good guys. I think they understood that anyway, but it just reinforced that.
And it was real fascists and Nazis back then, not the fascists and Nazis.
Exactly. Not just because, not just because somebody called them that. Like, that was actually the ideology.
Yeah, they were real.
But the idea that you could just go in and wipe them out, and you understood from a strategic standpoint that yes, there will be civilian casualties, there will be collateral damage, there will be property damage, that in order to take out the military, now obviously the primary target is the military, but they didn't have the ability to be quite that focused. Mm-hmm. We're better at it now. And Israel is unreal how targeted and how target specific they are, and they're able to avoid as many civilian casualties as they are. It's incredible. But at the same time, if you are going to wage total war and you are going to excise Hamas from the area, you have to understand that you are going to have some collateral damage, in part because Hamas will put it in the way on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So Israel understands they have to do this. The average American watching it on TV cannot stomach it.
Because the average American watching on TV is not under attack every day of their lives like they are in Israel, where they're used to
They're not trained in strategy. They don't understand that this is how the world works. They've never been faced with that reality.
Yes.
They've, if you go back again to World War II, everybody either had a relative or knew who was overseas. It was that the connections were that now that have gone generations without putting somebody in uniform.
Absolutely.
And then you have it's very specific. Like my family, I have multiple cousins, uncles, my dad, both my grandfathers, multiple great uncles have all served, and it just because it's become kind of I don't concentrated, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So you have families where multiple people serve, and then you have lots of families where no one has any connection to the military service.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the military currently makes up 1% of our population. There are a lot of people who have zero connection to that. During World War II, when we were actively drafting, et cetera, it went that way. And so you have a lot of people who don't really understand conceptually what service entails and what the risks are and how much they have to be willing to say, okay, I have my own personal sensibilities about what's right and what's wrong, but then I kind of have to check that at the door when I go to war, because you can't have that kind of sensibility. You can't. It's almost a desensitization, but it's intentional, because you cannot engage in war with other human beings if the first thing you see is a human being and not a military target.
Mm-hmm. And especially if your opponent in that war is dead set on wiping you literally off the planet.
That too.
Yeah, if you're not willing to match them at that level, then they're going to have an advantage on you. And I think you did a great job just now of laying out the differences and why, you see the media over here and certain, the segment of the population and United States citizenry that believes the way it does is because there's just, you don't really have that true understanding. And even I don't have that true understanding of what it's like to live in that part of the world where your life is at threat, literally 24/7, where hearing the missile alarms go off, the take cover, are a part of daily life. And if you did live in that reality, then I think your mindset would be a whole lot different. I think you did a great job of illustrating that. Virginia Cruda from the Daily Wire. Yeah, go ahead.
The media is a key player, and I keep coming back to this. I mean, think about it. In World War II, can you imagine any broadcaster willing to throw U.S. troops under the bus the way they absolutely would do it today?
No. Then, in fact, if you would have done that back then, you would have had to have been suspended by your company or your sponsors. The people would have been so upset with you that they wouldn't watch you anymore. You would have
resigned in embarrassment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it just, you couldn't. It would be unfathomable to go on television and cut the legs out from under American service members who are currently at war.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you can't. And they would absolutely do that now. I mean, think about what happened after Abu Ghraib, and not necessarily that it was wrong that it came out that what went on there, but like, you can't. Again, a lot of that stuff was never meant for public consumption.
Right. And there's and look,
the
you should
average
be.
American cannot stomach what happens in the times of war.
Yeah, and you should be critical. We should be critical of our leaders and our military, but to just openly, root for their demise or their loss or to criticize them, I mean, that is just a whole new level that unfortunately is reality in today's media. Virginia Cruda from the Daily Wire, thanks as always for your insight on this. Really appreciate your time as always, my friend, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.
For sure. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That is Virginia Cruda from the Daily Wire. Check out her articles every day at thedailywire.com and on our website, newstalkstl.com. All right, we are going to talk to another military veteran and maybe get his thoughts on these things, as well as a check on the markets and the economy as we start a new week. Paul Kurtman, former Missouri State rep, military veteran, and the president of PR Kurtman Investments, joins us next on Colombo Company.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. The latest news.
Conservative political activist Charlie Kirk has died.
Happens right here.
The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement. Partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We talk about Weber Chevrolet and their dedication to customer service, and that is why you see their customer service rankings and their reputation scores number one across the board when it comes to Chevy dealers in the Midwest. And it's not even close. And it's been that way for years. Number one when it comes to those reputation and customer service scores. And that is because of their dedication to doing right by every single customer. That's why they have been in the St. Louis area for nearly 125 years and continue to go strong. We were reminded of that in our family just last week when my daughter came home after living in Florida for a few years and let's just say lax vehicle maintenance during that time, and brought it up to the service department at the Creve Coeur location. My guy Dave there at Creve Coeur is just the best. And now that car is back up and running at 100%. Just amazing stuff. I really believe that it's their service department and their customer service that sets Weber Chevrolet apart from the rest. Of course, nobody's going to give you a better deal on a new or used vehicle. Nobody's going to give you more on your trade-in, but the service department and the way they take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you own it is really what, for me, sets Weber Chevrolet apart. Check out what's happening at all 3 Weber Chevrolet dealerships by going to weberchevrolet.com.
When it comes to spending your tax dollars and teaching your kids, governments and school districts should be an open book. But in Missouri, that's not always the case. Recently, the Show Me Institute sent out a sunshine law request to school districts across the state, asking for information on whether certain topics are being taught. Specifically, a controversial one called critical race theory was included in the list. Many districts didn't respond. Some wanted to charge large fees to process the documents. Lee's Summit outside Kansas City wanted over $35,000. A rural district, Morgan County, wanted $15,000. The Sunshine Law does allow charging a reasonable fee for sending out information, but there's nothing reasonable about $35,000 or $15,000. These districts should want to be transparent about their curriculums. Taxpayers deserve to know what their kids are being taught. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hey, folks, the Clayton Sleep Institute and my friend Dr. Ojal back supporting free, common sense, conservative radio. ClaytonSleep.com, treating the full range of adult and pediatric sleep disorders from sleep apnea to insomnia, restless leg syndrome, periodic limb movement, and narcolepsy. What an awesome place. New comfy setting for the sleep lab. ClaytonSleep.com, 314-645-5855. Better sleep, better life.
Paul Kurtman's financial update is brought to you by PR Kurtman Investments, providing customized strategic guidance to help you build and protect your wealth. Learn more at prkurtman.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Virginia Kruger from the Daily Wire for joining us in that last segment. If you missed that conversation, go and check it out on our podcast. Subscribing to the show's podcast is the best way to not miss anything that ever happens here on Colombo and Company, because we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. And so wherever your favorite place to get podcasts is on that platform, just subscribe to Colombo and Company. Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments now joins us on the line. And Paul, there's never a dull week, whether it comes to the news or the economy and everything happening in this world. So we've got this major announcement about Israel and the United States offering this peace deal to Hamas to end the war in the Middle East. We've still, of course, got the war in Ukraine. We've got a looming government shutdown hanging over our heads. Does any of this have any impact or slowdown effect on the markets and the economy as we start a new week?
Yeah, good to be with you, Tony. It always has the potential of impacting the markets. One of the things that I've noticed, though, Tony, over the last several years, with all the wars and the rumors of wars, it sounds biblical, but I kind of feel like the world is so well connected and information travels so fast. The markets seem to just kind of shrug off a lot of the global conflicts in ways that we probably weren't doing. We haven't seen the markets do, say, 30 or 40 years ago prior to the internet. I think we've come to realize just how common global violence actually is between nation states. And so I think that right now our markets are probably, you're more likely to see, rather than a headline about a peace deal or a potential bomb being dropped or a bomb being dropped, I think you're more likely to see the markets recoil from maybe strong, bad economic numbers or inflation numbers or something that has a lot more to do with the domestic markets, something that's closer to home.
You make a really good point there, and it's interesting. I never really thought about this, but, when we have these conversations every Monday and we talk about like oh, this major world event is happening. That's, probably going to have some impact on the economy or the markets. And it's seemingly less and less some of those things that, historically did have a major impact just don't anymore. And I think that, even when I was in high school in the 90s during the Gulf War, and, I clearly remember all of that and how much that was just 24/7 in the news. It seemed like it impacted everything happening in the world and everything happening in the country. And that wasn't that long ago. We're not going back to Vietnam or World War II or Korea or, or anything like that. But even just since then, since the 90s and early 2000s, and you just said it, when you said like 30 years, like I feel like, we're in a world right now where there are two major wars happening that the United States is very much involved in, not, directly, but still very much, a player in these two wars. And not only is it not news every day, it doesn't seem to have the impact on life that it used to.
So I got to tell you this, Tony. Let me just kind of put this in context, so we can kind of visualize this a little bit. On October, when was it? October 7th.
October 7th, yeah.
Yeah, when
Hamas attacked.
When Hamas attacked Israel. I mean, the markets, there was some dipping there, but I mean, it wasn't a month later. I mean, the markets were hitting all-time highs again. So the world's much more connected. I think we're used to these cycles of wars and then resolutions to them. I do think that we're not inoculated. I don't think that the markets are inoculated, and it's not like we have a bulletproof jacket on where our markets are always going to be strong. Eventually, a global event will happen big enough that will affect the markets, and it could be a war. It could be another COVID. So global events certainly do impact the markets, but I do think that different global events these days have a little bit different. The markets have a different reaction than they might have had 30, 40, 50 years ago.
There were also global events that could boost the market. And so we're not just talking about necessarily like a negative impact, but there were also things that could be positive impacts. So with the whole story taken into account, are we better off in a world where the markets operate more independently from the influence of the outside world? Although, like you said, the influence of the outside world will always exist, and there will always be a level where obviously it could, make a big difference. But it's a lot less, it operates a lot more independently now than it did in the past. Is that a good thing?
I wouldn't say if the markets ever feel like they don't have to pay attention to major news that's happening globally, we will be crossing into brand new territory that we've never been in. We have to understand that when the markets respond to economic numbers being released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or when the markets respond to tariff headlines, or when the markets respond to news that a bomb was dropped in Iran or Afghanistan or somewhere, you have to remember that the markets respond, and that's what the markets do. The markets respond. And if the markets ever stop responding to relevant news, then I think we have a problem. I think that's the real problem. If we see how the markets shift in how they respond to different news, that's informative. That tells us maybe how we should align our portfolios, or maybe how we should reallocate the assets in our portfolio. What most people want, is they want investments that are responsive to news and not completely just left isolated all alone, not doing anything in spite of what the rest of the world is doing. So, part of investing is just understanding that global events and domestic events, whether it's economic or whether it's wars, all of that stuff plays into the broader global market. And I think it's one of the laws of physics that for every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction. The same thing's true in the market. And we want it to be that way because we want to be able to draw the most information we can off of how the markets respond to all these different events going on. It's important that it informs our decisions with how we invest.
Talking to Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments. I want to switch gears real quick while we have you on the line, Paul, and kind of lean on your military background a little bit here, because tomorrow is this big event in Virginia. We reported on this last week. Pete Hegseth announced last week that they were bringing basically every member of the high leadership of the U.S. military, 800 plus admirals and generals, are all going to be gathered in Quantico, Virginia tomorrow for an in-person meeting. The president has now announced that he will be also at that meeting. Not only must this be something big, but also like what a security concern for me, at least, with all of the, like every leadership position in the military attending one event along with the president. So it must be a big deal. They still are not saying much about what could be happening. There's still speculation. I think you and I talked about this last week. There's speculation that it could be a cut, because Pete Hegseth in the past has said that he had wanted to trim 20% of military leadership. There's also thoughts that it could have to do with, what's happening with this new announcement about the war in the Middle East and some other major, changes coming to our war strategy in the near future. What do you make of this? Because this is very unprecedented for everybody to be brought together from all over the world and flown into one venue to have a meeting with the president and the war secretary. And what's your gut feeling on what could be going on tomorrow?
Oh man, Tony, your guess is as good as mine. But it could really be a number of things. I think last week when you and I were together, we talked a little bit about, could it be this comet that's headed our way? Probably not, right? That sounds like a Hollywood movie.
Could it be the aliens?
Probably, it could be. I think maybe it could be something much more mundane as a realignment of the table of organization inside of our military. And the thing is different branches of the military go through this from time to time. I know that from my experience in the Marine Corps, we've gone through this. My old regiment that I was a part of, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, 3rd Marine Division, were completely realigned into how they fit into the combat mission of the Marine Corps, and they disbanded our unit. So sometimes like there's even realignment of how units are structured. Maybe it could be involving something that's military wide, just a mundane change. That it's just so highly unusual that so many of them are being brought together in one place. To your point, it does create a security risk. We know this when the president gives his State of the Union address, right? It's a security risk. So there's one designated survivor that can take control in case of a terrible tragedy or an attack. So I just don't know, Tony, and I'm really, really excited to learn more about this as it unfolds. And I know they're going to have to come out with a statement or with an itinerary or something either just before or just after the event, because eventually that word will probably get out exactly what was going on.
And lastly, just about a minute left here, Paul. Wednesday will be the deadline for the government shutdown. I don't currently, now, of course, last minute deals have been struck a million times, but currently it seems like both sides are very far apart. Do you envision a government shutdown? And if so, will there be any real impact on the economy or the markets from it?
Maybe for the markets. Now, if there is a government shutdown, I would expect it to be temporary. That seems to be what happens when there's a government shutdown, but the funding for the government runs out Tuesday night at midnight. Now, if that happens, it's also possible that the jobs report that's due Friday could be delayed, and that's important economic data. So if there's a little tiny domino effect this week, it's potential that the markets could kind of recoil from that, which is just one reason why if people have not reviewed their portfolio or if they have not talked with a professional recently, they need to get in contact with somebody, because the markets will move and realign your portfolio with or without you. And it's always better for your portfolio to be realigned with you and your strategy in mind.
Yep. And that's why Paul and his team at PR Kirtman Investments could be such a vital part of your financial future. Learn more about that. Just Paul Kirtman and PR Kirtman Investments. Thank you as always for your time, my friend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet. All right, we're going to be joined by our AI expert, Mike McCleary, next.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner
This
of
December 13th, join wreaths across America at Belle Reve Gardens Cemetery as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom. Help us lay remembrance wreaths on the graves of our fallen heroes. Sponsor a wreath, volunteer, or bring your family to this meaningful tribute to our veterans, because every hero deserves to be remembered. Learn more and sponsor a wreath. Visit newstalkstl.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm John Scott. A joint news conference at the White House after President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held an important meeting to discuss the president's 20-point plan for ending the war in Gaza.
We had a long, strong talk, Bibi and I, and he understands it's time. It's time. History has shown, and the people of Israel want it, and the people of the Middle East want it.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is in agreement with the president's proposal.
Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace. Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas.
The president's plan would establish a temporary governing board that will be headed by Mr. Trump and include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Prime Minister Netanyahu says if Hamas rejects the plan, Israel will finish the job with President Trump's approval. In a Provo courtroom, Catherine Nestor, lead attorney for Charlie Kirk shooting suspect Tyler Robinson, asked the judge for more time before deciding if they'll seek a preliminary hearing.
Based largely on what the state just referred to as far as the voluminous nature of the discovery materials, we do think it would be prudent to simply reset for another conference, another waiver hearing, a little bit down the road.
Judge Tony Graff set the next hearing for October 10th. A North Carolina man accused of opening fire from a boat into a crowd at a waterfront bar, killing 3 and injuring 5 others. It happened in Southport. The alleged assailant, identified as Nigel Edge. Stocks finished higher, the Dow up 68 points and the Nasdaq Composite adding 107. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Is war in the Middle East, the revival of an ancient conflict recorded in the Bible.
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. So what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel?
Dinesh D'Souza's new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, is in theaters 2 nights only, October 6th and 8th.
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
Tickets not sold in theaters. Get tickets only at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More mild mornings and warm to hot afternoons. A low of 66 Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny skies and a hot one again, a high of 89. The record is 93 from 1952. We'll have light winds with that sunshine, though, and another dry day. And the dry weather continues for Wednesday, but we do see a little more cloud cover Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy. That'll help bring the temperatures down just a little bit, 86 for the high. Still a warm and above normal day for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Fox News commentary.
A mini Erewhon is coming to NYC, but it'll cost you big bucks to enjoy. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-540-2233. 800-540-2233. That's 800-540-2233.
LA's cult favorite grocery store Erewhon is making its NYC debut, sort of. It's a mini Erewhon opening as a tonic bar inside Kith Ivy, a new private wellness and paddle club in the West Village. There will be no grocery store aisles, just the famously expensive smoothies and juices. But here's the catch. You can't even walk in unless you're a member, and that'll cost you $36,000 to join, plus $7,000 a year. That's $43,000 just to sip and be seen in person. Originally, the concept was even more exclusive, but community backlash forced developers to drop the rooftop bar concept. Still, residents say the whole project feels a bit tone deaf given how many struggle to pay for food in general. But good news for peasants, you don't need a membership to at least try it. Erewhon drinks will be available for delivery if you're within range. It sounds a little ridiculous to me, but whatever floats your smoothie. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home.
We're through being cool. We're through being cool. Eliminate the minis and the twits. Going to bang some heads. Going to beat some butts. Time to show those evils what. If you live in a small town, you might be a dozen or two.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. A lot going on this Monday afternoon. Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House just about an hour ago unveiling their new peace plan. We got into unpacking a lot of that in the 2 o'clock hour. Also discussed the upcoming government shutdown, the looming government shutdown, and more in that 2 o'clock hour, along with Virginia Kruta and Paul Kurtman. If you missed any of that, make sure you are subscribed to our podcast to make sure that never happens. It's the best way to make sure you never miss anything here on the show. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, because right after we get off the air every day, we put the show out as a podcast. So best way to make sure that you never miss any of the great conversations. And we continue those great conversations now with our big tech AI expert from Intervine and Intervine.com. Mike McCleary is on the line with us. Mike, as always, another busy day in not just the news cycle, but also when it comes to big tech and AI topics. So appreciate your time as always.
Yeah, no, love being here. There's so many things. Don't know if we'll get to them, but we can talk about either spending money or making money. You choose, Tony.
Well, so it's funny because you sent me this story earlier today. We were talking about, various topics for this conversation. And you talked about it wasn't the OpenAI CEO. It was NVIDIA's CEO. Did a recent interview talking about addressing people's fears of losing their job to AI, But he also said, yeah, in some areas that will happen, but AI is also going to create a whole lot of jobs with all of the infrastructure and construction and all of that needs to be built, which we talked a lot about on Friday, some of these massive projects that are going to be happening across the country. And then right on the heels of that, like it's almost like perfect timing, here's a real world example of that. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this to get things started, because I don't know if this is making money and spending money and losing money and gaining money all at the same time. So the German aviation group, Lufthansa, is cutting approximately 4,000 administrative jobs over the next 5 years as it seeks to raise profitability targets. And they said that a lot of the replacement, what will be taking over covering these responsibilities, will be AI. Is one of the solutions, or some of it's redundancy, but by incorporating more AI, they are going to cover for a lot of these jobs. So there's a perfect example of AI maybe be replacing some people in one area, but at the same time, a lot of jobs being created by AI development and evolution. So it's important to cover both sides of the story here. I mean, you never like to see people losing their jobs, but there are some massive projects coming our way that are going to require a lot of manpower and open up a lot of new jobs, high paying jobs for a lot of people across the country.
No, you're right, and that's a perfect example of jobs that people will be losing at some point, and most of that, like you mentioned, is about efficiency and redundancy and redundancy. See what I did there?
I did.
It really is going to be like that. That's what they're trying to do with AI, is take away those jobs or replace those jobs that can be done much more efficiently. Also, they're going to be augmenting roles as well. It's not just replacing jobs; they'll be augmenting jobs like people, air traffic controllers, because that's something I want them to do. I don't want someone who's like hyped up on 14 cups of coffee, working 14 hours to always be the person controlling whether or not my plane's going to be landing safely. And that's one of those perfect jobs. They need to augment them, not replace them, but augment them with tools to really help them do what they want to do. And there's 3 big areas. You and I were talking Friday about NVIDIA. And Jensen Huang is his name. He's the CEO. And almost perfectly, Tony, after we talked about that, I saw this interview he did where he talked about 3 areas that people aren't thinking about. First, he acknowledged, yes, jobs are going to be replaced by AI. We can't stop that. Happens every time there's a big technological advancement like this.
Yeah.
But there's 3 big areas. And the one that we've talked about as well is someone's got to build all these, power plant factories, these data centers, all the network infrastructure. We don't have enough manufacturing jobs or people who can do that kind of construction. We just don't have enough. So they're going to have to do a massive hiring and training of people who want to get in construction, because we have to have all this, what do we say, like 17 gigawatts is what OpenAI is going to be producing, which is just insane. That's like 17 nuclear power plants just for one company right there. Now, that's one we know about, but there's one other one that I didn't even think about. And he calls this the refresh cycle. So think about all the desktop computers we got, all the devices, the tablets, the phones. All these things are running off of regular chips and computers, these CPUs. They're all regular ones now. And now that we're moving to this advanced computing era, like that uses like GPUs and other things that can run AI, all of the computers that we have right now need to be replaced. And we're talking in just a few years.
Yeah.
Think about how many devices are out there. I hadn't really thought about that. I hadn't thought about, wow, all these things need to be replaced with better GPUs, better systems that can take advantage of this. That is a massive amount of work as well, that there's going to be a lot of computer building and device building over the next couple of years. And hopefully a lot of that can be brought here to the United States.
And
then
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The third one finally is just going to be the new manufacturing jobs. Some we can think about, like, for example, robotics is coming, whether you and I like it or not, whether my wife likes the idea of me finally getting a Megan Fox robot to help with chores around the house. It's coming. It's going to be happening. And we need to be prepared for it. And someone has to build those robots. And I'm willing to test and help build just to make sure that the QA is there. But in reality, and seriously, like robots are coming. We're going to hopefully do a lot of the building here. And there's even other physical products that we probably haven't even thought of yet that we're going to need people to help build and help maintain and engineer, even the factories that do this. Those three things right there, the estimate he gave is that we're going to get to a point where there's like a $5 trillion capital expenditure every single year in these types of products, which is insane amount of spending. It means someone's going to be doing these jobs and getting paid that money. And that's where all these people, I hope, that are displaced will pick up some new skills and have some really awesome opportunities in the future.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like that is a one-time thing either. Like, oh, we just got to build these, 17 nuclear power plants. And yeah, that's a big old project. But, when it's done, it's done and everything's in place. And then we're, for the next several generations, there won't be anything to do. This is something that's going to continue to grow and expand and therefore potentially continue to create jobs moving forward. I think this is one, a lot of times I am more focused on the negative side of things, and you bring me back to the light with a more optimistic view on things. But this is one where I truly believe, like from the get-go, that this is a very important positive to highlight in the development of AI, because this is happening like now. Like these plans are being made. These facilities have to be built, right, Mike? I mean, there's no moving forward without putting this infrastructure and building, these facilities. So these companies are moving forward with that. So these jobs, this is a reality that is coming with a lot of opportunity and a lot of jobs for a lot of people across the country.
100%. I mean, we were already, our power grid was already strained. We all remember, the brownouts we used to talk about in New York and California and in Missouri in the summer. We get them here as well. It's already been a taxed system. And so they're already starting from behind the starting line. And so they need to do these things. They need to build these things out. We don't have enough people right now. The trades are one of the areas in the economy where if you're worried about any kind of job, like maybe entry-level white-collar jobs are the ones that are going to get hit hardest. But if you want to learn a trade, you have a son or a daughter, anyone to learn a trade, the trades are in hot demand. They already were ever since COVID hit. If you ever tried to get a plumber to come to your house during COVID, you know how hard it was to find a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, plumbers, electricians, engineers, anyone involved in construction, and they're not even talking about incredibly difficult jobs. You have to have a skill, but they're not like you have to go and get 5 years of a master's. These are high-paying jobs, six-figure jobs that are in high demand and are going to continue to be in high demand for a really, really long time. That excites me for the potential that we have as far as America's economy in the future.
I had a moment with AI over the weekend that I wanted to talk to you about, because we have discussed a lot about, some of the weirdness that sometimes happens with AI, some of the hallucinations, or, that's a word that's used in the, in the lexicon when it comes to AI discussion, the AI system hallucinating, or maybe telling you what you want to hear, that kind of thing. I got my daughter, she upgraded phones and got an iPhone 16, and the new one is the 17. So this is the one that's a little bit older or whatever. She got that, and I'm a Samsung guy, so I don't know a whole lot about the iOS operating system. Not nearly as good at, setting an iPhone up as I am a Samsung. So I went to my Gemini AI, and I was asking about, how to transfer all the stuff from one phone to the other. And I said, how do you do this using the transfer app to an iPhone 16? And the answer was, the iPhone 16 is not out yet, but as soon as it is, you'll be able to do this, this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and that. And like this big, long description. And as soon as she got done talking, Gemini, got done talking, I said, the iPhone 16 is out. I'm holding it in my hand, and I need to know how to transfer. And then it just picked up the conversation like, oh, you're right, it is out. And here's how you do it. And started to explain. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why was that the first? Why was the first answer? It's not out yet when it's been out for a long time. The 17 is out now. So like, there's just still some weird things that happen.
Yeah.
But what's so funny, as soon as you correct it, it's like, oh yeah, now we're right on the same path.
Let me give you 2 points on this.
Please.
One is the acknowledgement, and then two is like a partial solution. One is we're talking about all the power that we need to power AI. And what you're seeing when that happens isn't all the time, but a lot of times it's AI being lazy because it's trying to be as efficient as possible. And AI still is only trained up to a certain point in time. It has the ability to go out there, of course, and research new stuff, but that's very compute intensive. So if it thinks it can answer your question with what it has in its knowledge already, it's going to do that because that's a very simple, cheap, affordable, fast way to get your answer. So AI systems are trying to save money right now by giving you the quick and easy answer right now.
Gotcha. And so by me doubling down, it had to then kind of use that power to go and realize. So basically, I don't know if this is oversimplifying it, but basically when this was first installed, the base intelligence of Gemini was before that iPhone 16 was out. So that's its base. That's where it's starting the conversation from. And had I just nodded my head and agreed or shrugged my shoulders, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere. But the fact that I forced it, and what's funny is my family is let's say slow adopters to the AI. So anytime I use it, I get eye rolls of like, okay, just like the whole like I use my GPS all the time, even when I'm just driving home from work, because I want it to tell me if there's traffic or not. It's not that I don't know how to get to home. And therefore, my wife is very often like, if that thing told you to turn, to do a 90-degree turn and drive into the river, you would do it because you always listen to the GPS. So I get a lot of that when it comes to the AI too. So we're all sitting around the table trying to, get this cell phone thing done. And the first thing that the AI says is, oh, the iPhone 16 is not out yet, but when it is, here's what you could do. And it's like validation for the whole room. Like, there, see, your dumb AI doesn't know anything.
I'm laughing so much, Tony, because I think my wife might be listening to the show. I have to pay her to do it, but she's probably just saying, now I know why you and Tony get along so well. Because everything you just said is true. I use my GPS all the time. I want to know if there's traffic. I kind of want to know if like I know a faster way than the GPS does. Like I'm kind of that way.
Yes.
And I use AI because I get frustrated when we have a family conversation about something that turns into a debate when all we need to do is ask ChatGPT. And they get upset with me, and I fully acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah.
So let me tell you, though, a bit of the solution here. Both ChatGPT and Gemini have a feature where if you go into your settings, you can tell it something about you and how you want it to behave. And I have mine updated now. It's not perfect, but it does help a lot. You can tell it, I always want the most up-to-date information. And if you're ever giving me an answer to something that is timely, be sure to search for up-to-date information on this topic. It won't be perfect, but it will really help us. So if it ever answers a question like that has to do with a model or a version of something that's timely or a news event, it will go out there and do the search for you. And it works, it's kind of like a Sex Panther, works about 6% of the time.
Yeah, it works every time. Yeah.
And And so that's what I have to do. It does help a lot, but you're right. Otherwise, they're trying to save money. And that's kind of the problem that we're in right now. They don't have enough, but OpenAI is losing money. So they're trying to give fast, quick answers that are still good for their, free plans and for their lower level plans. And then for a higher level plan, they'll tend to give you, more thoughtful answers to your questions.
Yeah. Talking to Mike McCleary from Intervine. Got a few minutes left here. Talking about AI, big tech. We'll get into the great products that Mike and his team at Intervine have for you. And of course, that awesome 25% off offer as well. But, I think that, having these conversations and really just over the last couple of weeks, this understanding of, we talked about this on Friday, how it feels like AI is already everywhere. It's built into our phones. People are using it, especially the younger generation. Kids are using it to help with school projects and scheduling and things like that. It feels like AI is everywhere, and yet we're hearing from the big companies that, look, we aren't even close. We need more. We need all this extra power, and we need all this additional infrastructure. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, wait a minute, you're already in every phone. Like, how much more do you need? But I think this, like what happened with me and, getting that initial answer. And then also, like, I've talked about this in the past, like with the Gemini that I use, it'll tell me about if I'm doing show prep and I'm asking about news stories. And then I'll say, can you send me that? Can you send me the story? Or can you, can you send me the transcript of this conversation that we're having so I can go back? And, it can't do that. It'll say, oh, no, I can't do that, but you can go do it yourself. You can copy and paste, this conversation yourself. Or I had one a couple days ago where we were trying to figure out the title of a song and we knew some of the lyrics. So I went on and I said, here are the lyrics. What is the song? And the thing actually asks me, it says, oh yeah, that's this song by this person. And it was right. And then it asked me, do you want to hear it? And I said, yeah, let's hear it. Oh, I can't do that right now. Well, then why did you ask? but I think those are real world examples of the limitations that it has right now and why this new infrastructure is needed. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and we have all these old systems in place. Some are atoms, they're physical things built like power plants and electrical grids and network centers. And some are bits, software that's still old. Like, think about, you and I each have Android phones. You have Samsung, I have Pixel, but they run the old version of the Assistant, which got to be pretty good. It actually got to be really good in answering questions. And then they decided to roll out AI. And it kind of took the step back that you're now seeing, because they're trying to tie together this really advanced AI feature with an old, kind of good assistant that don't really work together. So the technologies have to be replaced and fully integrated. They need to do a complete refresh of all of our phones in order to get them to work together, because right now they're piecemealing everything together. So on the software side and the hardware side, with all the physical things we need built out, there's so much more to be done. So much more.
So my guess is that Google will be first. So the Samsung phones and the Google phones will be first whenever that happens, just because it just seems to be that they're always more advanced than the iPhones are. So maybe that's just my bias speaking, but it's also from what I've learned, talking with people like you and others, just in the industry. It seems like the Google phones are always a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to technology like that. So how long, if we do need a full reset and we need to get rid of the old, hey Google and that kind of stuff, and that AI platform, is that next year? I mean, I've heard that the next Samsung, the 26, which is not going to be out for several months, but I have seen some previews of that said that this is going to be a massive advancement, that the new Samsung 26 that's coming in several months is with this phone issue and some other things. I've been at the cell phone store a lot lately, and I'm hearing from those guys that this is going to be a massive jump. Do you feel like that reset that you were just talking about happens in our phones like in the next year, or is it further down the
I think
line?
for devices like phones, it's going to happen all in this next cycle whenever your company makes your new one. Google actually just rolled out the new Pixel that I have about 3-4 weeks ago, and it is AI first. It has an AI chip into it, and so AI is actually built throughout it, and it can actually do AI without even being connected to anything. Wow. Which is the really interesting thing to think about, that kind of power that it needs. Samsung, kind of based on the same platform. That's why there's a few months later. Apple is slower, because they focus more on the look and feel of things, and they don't really care to like catch up quickly. But in their next cycle as well, they'll be much more AI focused on their hardware, and there'll still be a little bit of a transition to make sure everything's working, because they can't just suddenly go ahead and refactor or reprogram a million different apps or things like that. But over the next year, I think all devices will become AI first, because those are much easier. People are more used to doing that more quickly. And then PCs and other things that will come probably in the next couple of years.
Great stuff. Mike McCleary from Intervine, the local business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available on the market. Also, our AI expert here on the show. Before we let you go, Mike, remind folks about all the great products at intervine.com and, of course, that great 25% off offer.
Yeah, if you want to do anything with LED, like camping, hiking, just being prepared, we have the best lanterns, flashlights, headlamps, and batteries around. Go to intervine.com, intervine.com. Use discount code TONY, TONY. Save 25% on every single thing. We don't exclude anything.
Every single thing. Use it as much as you want, as many times as you want, for as many things as you want. And get the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, stock up on batteries, all at intervine.com. Mike, as always, really appreciate your time. And if not before, we'll talk to you next Monday. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Tony Nashland. Take care. See you guys next Monday.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. That is Mike McCleary. Again, Intervine is INTERVINE, intervine.com. Just use my name, Tony, TONY, for 25% off everything. All right, before we hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, have an update on the mayoral election in New York, and the clock is ticking on a potential government shutdown. We'll give you the latest on those issues next on Colombo Company.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
The Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway is the team to call if you are thinking about selling your home. They, of course, have so many qualified buyers right now that they guarantee to get you an offer. They're selling 15 times more homes than your typical home seller. You've heard us talk about those stats in the past. But just find anyone that's ever worked with the Wallners and just get that personal experience of working with Rodney and Jen, and you'll understand why those stats exist, because they are just, they're this sounds weird. They're just normal people. They're easy to talk to. They're easy to work with. And on top of that, they have the experience and the work ethic that really sets them apart from the rest, which just makes it such an easy, understandable. You're always in communication. You know what's going on every step of the way. You're never wondering what's happening or what they're thinking or anything like that. I mean, for just so many reasons, Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team, are St. Louis's #1 home selling team. You've heard me tell our story of going through selling our old home and finding our new home a few years ago. That Rodney and Jen were just so great with selling our home faster than we could have ever imagined, and getting more money for it than we could have ever imagined. If you're thinking about selling your home, you just need to call Rodney and Jen. Have that first conversation. At least arm yourself with that peace of mind, knowing of, how much your home is worth and how fast they think they can sell it. And then make a decision with that information now, in mind, whether or not this is the right time to move forward with selling your home. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the St. Louis metro area, the Wallners can help you. If you're thinking about selling your home, call them now at 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
Hi, I'm Mark Sutherland, founder of Stone Ledge Distillery, and I'd like to give you a bottle of Stolock whiskey or Inversion vodka. Enter now at stoneledgedistillery.com/win. Come experience our tasting room in historic Defiance. Enjoy Stolock whiskey, Inversion vodka, and other Missouri-made spirits, wine, and craft beer in our beautiful cocktail lounge, cigar room, or out on the patio with live music every weekend. Don't forget, win a bottle of Stolock or Inversion at stoneledgedistillery.com/win. Come raise a glass in Defiance.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
By President Trump's executive order, Antifa is now a domestic terrorist organization behind numerous attacks on police, federal agents, causing chaos everywhere. We currently have no federal law regarding domestic terrorism. So it's not sure how the executive order can be carried out. And Trump critics point out Antifa is not really an organization, just an ideological movement. Pardon me, your ideological movement just threw a firebomb into a police station. Yeah, that's kind of activity. Well, possibly under the RICO Act, there could be investigations about funding for domestic violence, such as Antifa. A recent report states that George Soros and his Open Society gave $80 million to U.S.-based groups dedicated to violence. In fact, $23 million of that went to just 7 groups based right here in the USA. You want to guess the name of some of them? Well, start with the A's. No, you got one. You got one already. Good, we're taking action because this is a clear and present danger.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you are ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
A new week, more Larry Connors USA, where you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL.
Lazy yellow moon coming up tonight, shining through the trees. Crickets are singing and lightning bugs are floating on the breeze. Baby,
You gotta get to the chorus. You can't hear the song without.
Across the field where the creek turns back by the old stumble road, I'm gonna take you to a special place that nobody knows. Baby, get ready.
Here we go. Everybody sing along.
You and me go fishing in the dark.
Oh, that's good stuff. Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Mike McClary from Intervine, the great local business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps on the market. Also batteries in all different sizes. Intervine.com. Use my name, Tony, for 25% off everything on that great website. All of their great products there. All right. Quick update on the mayoral race in New York. Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, has announced that he is dropping out of that race. Therefore, slimming down the candidates. Zoran Mondani, of course, the Democratic Socialist Communist that has been leading the whole way. We'll see if this pads his lead, or if some of the Adams voters go to his opponents. Of course, you've got Andrew Cuomo running as an independent, and the Republican Curtis Sliwa, and all of the recent polls that you have seen, and basically all the polls for the last year have been very similar. And, when you have that kind of consistency in polling, it starts to maybe, be a little bit more believable. Polls not as trustworthy maybe as they used to be, but when you see, a lot of consistency over a long period of time, then maybe that does seem to tell a more realistic story. And basically, I'm looking right now at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 polls done on the Real Clear Politics average. And all of them tell about the same story. And even if all of the voters, all the percentages, if you were to take those numbers and apply them 100% to Andrew Cuomo, who is in second place in all these, you still don't overcome Zoran Mondani. So, for example, a Fox News poll that was conducted last week has Mondani at 47%, Andrew Cuomo at 29%, Sliwa at 11%, and Adams at 7%. So even if you take that 7% and add it to Andrew Cuomo, you're still only looking at 30. That only bumps his number to 36, which is still more than 10 points behind Zoran Mondani. So I don't know if this announcement from Eric Adams is going to have a massive impact. Right now, just the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of these, all 9 of these, the closest is 15 points. That's his slimmest lead in any of the most recent polls. Zoran Mondani's is 15-point lead at the very least. Some are in the 20s, plus 20, plus 21, plus 22. So, looks like he's got a very strong lead there in New York. And he actually recently announced a massive amount of legal defense funding for immigrants as he wants to Trump-proof New York. We'll get into some more of these details tomorrow, but Zoran Mondani made the announcement that he plans to invest $165 million in legal defense services for immigrants. So to basically combat the Trump administration's deportation policy, he's going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to defend illegal immigrants. He went on to say that he affirmed his commitment to increase funding by more than $100 million for New Yorkers he said are in urgent risk of deportation. Among the $165 million funding commitment, Mondani is planning to increase funding for the Rapid Response Legal Collaborative from $500,000 to $25 million and more. So a whole lot happening with that. Of course, this on top of free public transit, freezing rent, city-owned grocery stores, and all of the other costly and socialist plans that Zoran Mondani has for New York City. And you look at some of these numbers, and like I said, we'll unpack more of these tomorrow, but where are you getting these hundreds of millions of dollars? Just going to get it out of thin air to create what he calls the strongest sanctuary city in the country. His quote, strongest sanctuary city in the country. That is what he wants to turn New York City into. All right, we will dive into that story and more when we get back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952.